All right, today in class, we'll be making a very basic roll cage that will hopefully match the roll cages that we find within the Baja SAE rules found at bajasae.net. Here's the PDF file, and you can scroll down until you find figure B-8. We're going to try to make this one as close as we can as a starting point, and then we'll try to go through and make sure it meets all the rules within the Baja SAE rules. So let's get started. We'll first of all make this beam right down at the bottom, and then we'll draw a perimeter around the outside edge and then expand it out into a third dimension. So let's get started with using inches, new part, standard, create, and I am going to give this first dimension a unit. I'm going to call it, I kind of made some estimations here. So I'm going to call this first beam right here kind of the midline of the cockpit, and that's going to be, in our case, 38.3 inches. And we'll scroll back like this as we make the rest of this sketch. So let's pull that down a little bit. The rest of these will not have dimensions. We will just roughly sketch them. So this will go out toward the nose of the vehicle. Let's see if I can get the lines turned on for construction. So this one will go out here. I think it's going to be like 17. You know what? I will put this first one on 17.5. And then it goes up and to the left. And it comes back over here. This is kind of like almost the windshield, so to speak, area of the vehicle right here. There's the top. The engine will be back here. And I think in that diagram, they have a vertical line right here. And then coming back over to that area. So you can see this is the perimeter of the vehicle as seen from the right-hand side view right here. I guess we can call it the front, but I guess to me it's almost like more like more like the right-hand side view. We can call that the front of the vehicle. All right, so let's put a few more measurements in there that I've determined will get us close to what the diagram shows us in the rules. So one thing we could do is adjust our number of digits that we're going to display. So let's go into document settings and go to units. And I think we might only need just 0.1 on precision. The next dimension that I estimated in making these, let's see, are we still doing that? Yep. All right. Is this one right here. And in order to make this diagonal dimension, you want to click in the middle, and we want this one to be exactly 18. This one right here, we want this one to be 23. And we'll see if that takes us past there. Yeah, it takes us a little bit past vertical. When we come back and make some modifications, we might make that vertical just to make it easy for us. What else to mention? What other dimensions we know? On this one, I estimated that for us to make something that matches their diagram, that needs to be 30. This needs to be 20. And we're going to keep at it until we get something that's fully defined, fully constrained. Uh, so at this one right here, on this one, I am going to put 35.1. And then on this one, let's see. It's kind of hard to say, but let me try this other one instead. Let's try this one and see if that's going to be enough. So this one should be 29.8. Does that make us fully defined? Not yet. We need a few more. So let's get a few more things in here. Maybe this top distance, we can try to put that in there. I estimate that to be, let's see, 32.3 plus a curvature right there of 3.5. So I did put a fillet in that area to get us there. Now, it doesn't look like it's fully defined yet. So let's see, what could it be that we need to define? Probably some, more angles or what have you. I would imagine that it would be this diagonal, which is where our firewall is going to be. So let's make one that goes right here. And let's see if the distance or the length of the firewall is something that we can measure from my estimations. Maybe so. So let's see if this is going to lock us down to a fully defined sketch. And it looks like it does. but it doesn't look like it's the proper shape here. So let me see if I made an error somewhere. Yeah, so one area looks like it's right here. It should have been 29.8. Maybe I said it the right way out loud. All right, there's our perimeter of our vehicle. We can kind of look at it from the side like this to see that it is an outline. The only beam that is going to be real, I think, is this one right here. And by real, I mean that actually exists. So you can see that there's no beam that goes around the perimeter of the vehicle. But now what we're going to do is use these points that are along the perimeter to make these horizontal beams like this. I think in the textbook, I'm sorry, in the rules rather, they give these various names. Let's see if I can find a few. You can see like GG is one of them, or don't they have some other names? Like here's GLC, ELC. So we're going to basically give you those measurements to see if we can get really close to a starting point that looks like this. Again, it won't be a final product, but at least it'll be something that's roughed out to get us close to a starting point before we just start to determine whether our rules are applying to each one of these dimensions. So let's finish that sketch and let's begin a new three-dimensional sketch. And this is where we're going to put those horizontal lines in there or perpendicular lines. I'm going to try for a midpoint line, although it doesn't look like I can easily do that. I don't see a midpoint feature there. If we look at how many we need one right here. One, two. I don't think we need one there. Let's see, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. So let's just make a bunch of these that are going to go along the red axis. In other words, the x-axis. And I'll show you, I shouldn't have had these right here and there. I'll show you what we're going to do with these just by getting started. And that is, let's put some constraints in there and say that the midpoint of this one is going to be right on that right there. And it says failed to make a constraint. Let me see why that would be. Let me pause the video. Okay, so my guess is that this sketch right here is not really part of this three-dimensional sketch. So I wonder if we can project it onto a surface. I think it's actually this one. And then we select the entire sketch that we're looking at, that one right there. Maybe I have to define the sketch here. Is it all of those? I don't think so. Let's see. Define the intersecting geometry. I guess, oh, okay, that's what we're looking at right there. In other words, we're trying to make this go into the third dimension right there. So I guess that's select geometry to be intersected. That's going to be right here, the sketch number one. Or if I can click on each one, that does not work. So let me see if I can figure out what happened there. Pause the video. You know, I have a hunch, but I think it's about projection, not about intersection, because that's the way that we discussed it when we were dealing with only two-dimensional sketches. So let's see if that's actually the case. Let's go to projected sketch like this. Ah, yeah, it looks like it's closer. And so the faces that we're interested in, we know that this face right here is on that plane, and it's what curves do we want to look at? We want it to be those that are on the sketch. Can I just highlight it like this and get all of those on there? Perhaps we can go right-hand view like that. Try not to get those other ones in line. Or do I have to click each one of these to get it to project? All right, then if I click apply, do I get something that I can use? And it looks like that's the case. Let's go back over like this. And so the only one I see that's not here is maybe that yellow, that black one, but it might just be kind of because it's the only one that is not hidden. Let's try that again, where we're now going to say, let's make this midpoint right here coincident with that one. And so here we're making that perimeter that I was talking about. All right, let's see how many more of these we need. We need one here, one, two, three, four, five, six. And so we'll make six more of those lines. And then I'll pick up my pen this time. One, escape after each one. Like that. Or I wonder if I could just hit Control C and Control V a bunch of times. I kind of put it on top of the other one though. All right, is that six of them yet? One more. And so we start making these midpoints line up so we can measure kind of the width of the vehicle at various points and make it match up with what we see for this starting point sketch that we found within the rules. Okay, so you can see that I have some three-dimensional effects going on right here. And so now let me see if I can get my estimations for these horizontal lines before we move too far along. All right, and of course you can fast forward the video if you want to, but this one right here is going to be our 12 inches, and then this one also be 12 inches. Then it's going to expand out here to where we get toward the roll gauge is. And I think I had at least an initial value of 29. I typed in 39 there. Let me get that corrected. Okay, and then going up from there at this front nose area, it looks like we're going to use 20.3 to approximate it to be what we see in the rules. Also 20.3 here. And we're just going to make that continue on with 20.3. Even I'll go all the way back here as well. Oh, wait. I think part of this we want to be 20.3, but the overall width, I think, is actually 27.5, which you'll see why in a moment. All right, did we get them all in there? What about this back one right here? And this small one right there. So we got two more to go. Let's see. I think the rules say that this has to have a minimum of 10 inches, although I found that their diagram corresponds to 5. So we're just trying to make it exactly equal to the diagram first. And then this back one, I want to say, is that 10 inches? Yeah. So maybe it's this one that's supposed to be 10 inches. Now, can we simply go from there and start finishing up our diagram by playing connect the dots? And you can imagine doing a sweep after this to sweep a shape along the perimeter to get to represent the pipes that are going through there. All right, let's see what else we need to do. We got the other side, right? So let's see if I can just put it in the home position and find all of those points and do that one. So quickly, this becomes three-dimensional after we lay out the perimeter and these, I guess, lateral pieces that we're talking about. All right, what else do we have in here that we need to make? And the first thing I just noticed is that this is not supposed to go to there according to this diagram here. It's supposed to fall short of that. So these two should be parallel to each other. So we're going to make that adjustment. And let's see how we can make that adjustment. Suppose what we could do is go ahead and change this one right here to the 20.3, and then remember that there needs to be another line on there, and this is for the tube bend that we're going to get to in a bit. So it goes here. We'll put it also on that point. It's going to help us with the tube bending. And that one's going to be the 27.5. Okay, looking good so far. All right. Also in the diagram over here, we notice that there's no beam right there. So what we need to do is make that a construction line here. Okay, I thought it was in. Let's see. Let's do a control Y on that one, get that dimension back. And we want to make sure that this one is a construction line. Now we do know, though, that the tube should go from here down to that point, hitting escape, and then also doing the same thing on the other side, like so. All right. Now let's kind of look at what the rest of this diagram looks like. We need to have these side impact members in place. We need to put some curvature on that right there, some curvature on this, and of course, some lateral lines right there. So lots to do still, but I wouldn't say, well, it's not really that much, I suppose. Um, we do want to make this one right here actually a visible line. All right, let me pause right there, let you take a look at it, see what we want to attack next. Let's focus on the remaining atoms one at a time, and that would be the curvature down here. And we don't actually need a pipe across this one, at least for their diagram. So we will take this line here that is visible, make it a construction line. The tube bender that we have is 3.5, so we'll just assume that's the case. It might be that they're using a 6, but I'm just going to use a bend in here. Now, where is the bend? Three-dimensional model. Oh, wait, I was on the wrong one, wasn't I? All right, so I need to edit the three-dimensional sketch. And you can see that the bend is right over here. Zooming in at this point, where we want to put the 3.5. We want to put it here and there. You notice that dotted line will stay over there, and that's okay, because now we have just finished the back part. Now there is another one up here, here, and here, and then also here and here. But you'll notice that this beam is now disconnected from the other one. So this really needs to go back to being a construction line, because what we really want is something that starts at the tangent of that, or the end of that curve as we move into this point. So can we actually draw something like that? Can we lock in on that point and then go exactly horizontal over here and then lock in on the same point? You see it does give me that 20.3 degrees. So there is our other beam. So it looks like we have now handled another key part of the sketch. And am I mistaken, or do we only have just this firewall to go? We have everything else complete. Well, there's some pieces down here that we need to put in place as well. Let's do those because those look to be a little bit easier. We're just talking about two horizontal lines. And so let's get back down there to this one. And you know how to do this, right? We just go in here and say, just make a horizontal line along the red axis, along the x-axis. Do another one. And we're going to use a coincidence to line up our midpoint with the spine of our vehicle. And then here and there. You see, I put it way back there for some reason. So let's see if we can move it forward just by grabbing the middle like so. Then what we can do is also make it coincident with this purple beam. Who knows what that's going to do once we pull that in. Oh, it actually worked pretty well. But we do need to know how far forward it is. And my best guess as to what the author did on this one was, let's see, I think 6 inches. So if we go from, can we go here to here? And that would be 6 inches. And I think, oh, what happened there? Did I type in 60? And then another 6 inches for this other one. Okay. And you can see that really what we're missing on this firewall is, some kind of distance along here. And so that wasn't really, given in our case. So I guess what we'll have to do is kind of stare at this, figure out how we want to get that into the midpoint. Maybe we could put it somewhere right in here. So let's draw that line. again along the red axis. Just find this much more convenient as far as staying organized as far as your three-dimensional sketch. And that probably went way above normals, which is not unexpected. And you bring this down to where you want it. And the actual width that we want to put in here to match the sketch that's within the rules, I think is 35. Yeah, so we'll do a 35 there. Then how far above the ground do we want this one? Let's see. Okay, now I think the distance along the back of the firewall needs to be 17. Is it 17 or 17.5? Yeah, 17.5. Not that many fives. And now we can connect the rest of this. But I don't think that that's actually going to be a line. So we're going to go back to this one and turn it into a construction line. And so now let's connect the rest of this by making this six-sided figure that is going to be our firewall. And I think I accidentally put that cross member in there, which is going to be in there, but not quite yet. Let's go ahead and put our curvature, our bends of 3.5 inches as an estimate. That looks good. And I think there is another line that we have to draw along the red axis. So we will do a coincident with the midpoint and that one. And of course it puts it up. Where does it put it? Does it put it right there? That's a weird place for it. Yeah, it actually did. So that's not really that's really not really what I was looking for. Let's see if I get it closer, if it'll give me a better placement of that. So if we say midpoint here, midpoint there, that's a little better. And of course we want this to stick to the side. Now the estimate that I have for the placement of this real beam from the sketch that's in the rules is, well, I'm not sure yet. I do know we have a diagonal, so we will put this other one in first. So we have it from right about that curvature, right along this back one, all the way against the back, and we'll put it maybe a few inches above the ground down there. Let's see what I got. All right, let me pause the video to make sure I have everything that we need. All right, I think it's like 7.5 or what have you. So we're going to try that to see if it works. And that one will be this one. I don't really know what this distance is going to be, so we will estimate it as just 3 inches, and we'll make sure that follows the rules later on, as well as that one there. Now, this also gives us opportunity to finish the SIM, which is the side impact members that go from here to there, and then back here. And then the other side impact member, SIM, goes to right there. Let's see how close this is to the actual vehicle. And one thing we can do to check on that is to try to make it an overlay in paint.net here. So what I've tried to do is screen capture, first of all, the diagram from the rules. And then I can go over here to do a print screen on this one, or I wonder if I just use light show or light spot here. Is that what it's called? Use an application called Light Shot. Purple feather, I believe. And I overlay this one on top of this one and kind of move it around. What I also did here was I went down to this one and I adjusted the contrast so that you can kind of see them overlay to see how well I did on this. So now I can kind of see both of them. I clearly need to scale this one down. And we're just trying to see how close I got to the actual picture. And you can see that I didn't quite give it that proper perspective. So I will have to change that. So I'll do just maybe a little bit better. I'll go like this. maybe shift up a little bit, just guessing what they had, and then doing one more of these. And then I might pause the video to show you maybe how we can get a little bit closer. All right, so going back to this overlay and seeing how close we can get. How'd I do? I mean, it's not that bad. Now I am changing the aspect ratio, which is not great. And so you can see I did miss the mark right down there. So it's not fantastic. So I'll go through and see if there's 6. That'll probably work a little bit better. Sometimes it's hard to remember which one of those you're doing. And you could try to line up this one right down here is usually the best one to start with, the bottom of the roll cage. I'm using Shift to make sure I maintain my same aspect ratio, although I haven't really done that all the time. And we'll just get close enough. Looks like I need a little bit of rotation and a little bit of shrinking. Okay, and you can see I got a lot closer on my line down here, and I didn't get very close on that diagonal. All right, good enough for a starting point, though.